Day one, FSTEC. We're in Orlando, Florida. I am Alicia Kelso, Executive Editor for Nation's Restaurant News. I'm here. I'm thrilled to be joined by Nick Petrocci, Senior Manager of Restaurant Tech.
Senior Director, but
Senior
it's okay.
Director.
It's okay. It's all right. I'm the manager most days.
Senior Director of Restaurant Tech at Zaxbys.
Yeah.
Where you've been for about the past 4 years.
4 years. Yeah, I'm a boomerang. I left and came back. We got some new ownership who you met with, our new leadership, and they came in and they were like, Nick, come back. And put a great roadmap in front of me, put some great goals in front of me, and I was like, I have to come back, so I'm back.
Yeah, I love that. And I was on campus learning about the roadmap that they put in front of you in the spring, which is incredibly holistic. Of course, we're going to zoom in on your area of expertise, which is digital. The third pillar that Bernard Acosta, the CEO, outlined was becoming more personalized on the digital front. Explain to me how you even begin to do that.
A lot of it's empowering team members to recognize their guests more, to recognize those types of digital guests that are coming in. And so our Chief Technology Officer, Mike Nettles, came in and really identified we had a foundational tech problem. We needed to really rip and replace a lot of these things. Bernard's vision just coupled on top of that and gave us some really specific metrics to go after. And so it's really about re-platforming our technology to where we could empower our team members to give that great digital experience that our customers were craving, we're used to in the marketplace, we're really wanting from us. And yeah, I mean, that's how we started tackling, which is like, let's start with the foundational stuff. Let's get that technology right. And now we're kind of in the age of fun technology where we get to start really personalizing one-to-one offers and really driving that audience group and segmentation and all the cool things our new Chief Digital Officer, Chris Kung, is doing is like, personalized offers, making it more experience oriented for Zaxby's customers.
Sure. I assume a lot of this, based on how you're talking, is hinged on that loyalty program.
Yes.
And Bernard did tell me that, when he came on board, it was essentially an email program.
Yeah.
Explain the evolution of that loyalty program against that backdrop of all of these changes.
Yep.
And where are you now? What inning are you in now?
Yeah, I mean, foundational stuff really needed to come into place. So like I said, we kind of ripped and replaced a lot of the existing technology was there, made sure we brought in new age tools for Chris and his team to really start utilizing messaging platforms, offer engines, those types of things. And now we started as an email program, and now we're at 6 million members, of active, hungry Zaxby's customers who keep churning through our restaurants and taking advantage of those personalized offers, driving check, driving value to our franchise partners.
Sure. How has this impacted digital ordering and digital sales mix?
Yeah, I mean, I remember, and I'm going to even take it a little further back. I remember when I was here last, I told you I was a boomerang hire. We were probably scratching at 3% pre-COVID. Then COVID obviously happened, surged us up. But even then we were like 8%, 10%. Now we're over 20% of our mix is in digital sales, and we have a roadmap to 30%. And for a QSR brand of our size that is heavily drive-through, so impressive and just speaks to the value of our program.
Any glance at that roadmap to get to 30?
Yeah.
What does that entail? Especially as it applies to your area.
Yeah, I mean, I think tweaking, now, like I said earlier, we get to do some of the fun technology pieces. So tweaking what we learned about the digital experience with the mobile app and the web application. How do we make that more impactful for those in-store guests? Digital menu boards, using AI tools to start to drive personalization and recognizing profiles, greeting guests when they come in. New age technologies that we're starting to kick around is kiosks and some hyper, kitchen systems management, kitchen queue management to make our team members' jobs easier, where they just see an order, make an order, and we've done all the thinking for them.
Yeah.
So I think those are some of the things that we're now just starting to tune based on what we've got in front of us.
Okay. What intrigues me about this conversation as it applies to your area of expertise, everything you just outlined is basically two different components.
Yeah.
You've got the consumer-facing component.
Yep.
And the employee-facing component, both equally important.
Yep.
But how on earth do you prioritize that? And, what are we looking at in terms of those priorities for both?
Yeah, I think my favorite answer to this question is you have to prioritize both. So focus on the ones that impact both, right? Like bring in the technologies that are actually going to provide value to both those groups. My job is way more on the team member side. I have a counterpart who's way more on the customer side for the applications. And so things like order status, making an intelligent order status tracker and giving the guests information real time from events that happen in my kitchen when they hit that bump order, sending that to the guests, that helps both of them. It helps us manage our queue more effectively. It builds that trust and that contract with that customer that we're making their order when we said we would. And those are the types of technology we're trying to prioritize. It's like, how do we serve both audiences at the same time as we develop?
Right. As you build your digital sales mix above 20% with a higher goal, where are you deriving your ROI, especially on the employee-facing side?
Sure. I think the ROI, obviously incrementality to us is key. We want to capture some of our guests that are in the drive-thru or that are in the dining room who we can get more check value out of them if they transact with us digitally. We know that for a fact. So how do we get them to shift over? And the best way to do that is give them a better experience, give them a better reason to shift over to that medium in which they place their order. So I think the incrementality is certainly, but it's incrementality both on new guests that we attract. We're casting a wider tempo. We're growing. We just opened a location in Vegas. We just opened a location in Arizona. I got to be out in Arizona when we opened that location. We're starting to build a larger tent for more guests to come in. And ultimately, we want to serve them in whatever pathway they're coming in, but take advantage of when they're staring at us, ready to open their wallet. What can we do to drive that check more and more? And it's menu mix, it's the digital experience, it's kind of all in.
Sure. I assume that personalization comes into play big time.
Oh, yeah.
Because, as we know, consumers are far more selective than they've been in quite some time.
Absolutely, yeah. I think they're definitely far more selective. They're far more selective with their time. How do we get faster? And so, even technology that we look at in our drive-through, like how do we change our timers from the historical old timers to an AI vision-based timer, so we understand full picture things like dwell times and when they enter the parking lot versus when they exited parking lot, which is ultimately the best speed of service metric you can have. So it's really about finding those things that we can really sit down and tune and make sure the customer knows how valuable we take them, how valuable we consider them, and consider their time and their resources and their money.
Very good. I live in Louisville, by the way.
Nice.
And Zaxbys opened that digital-only building.
Yes,
so yes. It seems like there's a lot of possibilities here to translate. When you talk about planting flags in Vegas, for example, or Phoenix, it sounds like all of the stuff you're working on has the potential to come into play almost like a plug and play, depending on what the prototype looks like. Is that fair to say?
No, absolutely. Yeah. Our design and construction team's been fantastic over the last 2 years, really taking Bernard's vision and sharing that Zaxby's magic with as many people as possible, including new franchisees that we bring in who historically just kind of watched our brand, and now they're kind of getting off the bench and saying, I want to participate in that because we're allowing for new age buildings to go in smaller spaces, inline locations, end cap locations, things that are in our brand history we just haven't done. And that allows us to do cool and fun things like digital exclusive pickup lanes and digital only locations and other things.
Right.
So,
Demystify AI for me. I was on Domino's headquarters earlier this week, and their chief technology officer said that word has been hijacked. But I am curious about how it applies to Zaxby's. What you guys are looking at specifically, if there's deployment possibilities or even already executions with AI.
Yeah, look, I wish I could demystify it, enough, but there's definitely still some mystifying things about AI, about what we can do with it. The way I'm looking at it is how can we supplement things that are already there? How can we make that team member's job easier? So things like, we're looking around at voice AI, but we're not looking at it to, take over the order experience and interrupt the cashier or, make that difficult for the guest. How do we empower the cashier? How do we give them prompts over the headset with AI? Hey, upsell this. Hey, give them this. But also then how do we use AI to actually manipulate the menu board? Things like customer asks a question, we show the answer to that question on the menu board rather than a cashier having to have scripting prepared to respond to that. So the way we're looking at AI is really supplementing what we already have. We're building on our guest experience. We've been building on it for some years now. We've reduced speed of service by 20% over the last couple of years. And now it's just like,
How have you done that?
with AI. I mean, Vision AI, bringing in that Vision AI timer gives us more insight into where is the breakdown with the speed of service. We're one lane drive-throughs. A lot of our locations are legacy locations.
Yeah.
So it's like, we've got to figure out where the fall through is. So in a combination of that Vision AI mapping of our parking lots, but then also tablet ordering and things like that.
Interesting. It seems like Vision AI is far more invisible to consumers than, for example, Voice AI taking your order. I mean, is this a hierarchical system? Is one more ready for deployment and the big stage, and one still needs some
Sure. I think we're a southeastern chain. We grew up in the southeast. I think if you asked most southeast consumers, would they be like, yes, I definitely want to talk to an AI when I roll through the drive-through? I think no. But the Vision AI allows us to really use what the best things about AI are without disrupting that consumer experience entirely. And it gives us a much more actionable insight into what's going on in our parking lot.
That ROI piece.
Yeah.
20% is no joke.
Yeah, exactly.
And in how long? What was the time frame that you improved?
In the last 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah, in the last 2 years.
Okay.
So, I mean, our operations team, they laser focused on this. They said, this is the technology piece that we want. We went through quite a bit of vetting, figuring out what works, and now they're off to the races. Got hundreds of locations, and it's been really impressive to watch what they can do with the data they're getting.
Yeah, very cool. 2 final questions for you then. I want to go back real quick to loyalty, because it is one of the top 3 topics that we are covering right now.
Yeah.
It's no secret that this is an extremely challenged environment. When traffic is muted, people go for brands go for frequency.
Sure.
Consumers, especially Gen Z, expects that personalization. So it feels, and it doesn't feel like it. I'm getting these in my inbox. I'm seeing it.
Yeah.
Everybody is evolving their loyalty program in earnest.
Yeah.
What will you do to keep pace with that intensifying environment to make sure that you have earned the right on their mobile device?
Yeah, look, if you're going to take a soundbite away, your loyalty program should always be evolving, period. It should never be static. It should never be something you turn on, a waterfall campaign and say, that's it for loyalty. Like, it has to continually evolve, especially with consumer preferences constantly changing. Share of stomach is less and less, right? We have more and more competitors that are competing in our exact flavor profile space that we've got to make sure we're talking to our guests. So your loyalty program should always be evolving, and ours is no different. We are constantly evolving our loyalty program. I think when you hear Chris, our Chief Digital Officer, talk, a lot of what he's going to be focused on is how do we share the Zaxbys magic via experiences more so than discounting, and ultimately get part of the national conversation, which I know Bernard talked really heavily about in March. How do we get in the forefront, make sure people are thinking of Zaxby's when it comes around to lunchtime, comes around to dinner time? And to us, that's going to be the biggest shore up of how we defend ourselves against, changing economic conditions that we're always at risk of.
Very good. And then final question, obviously it's a broad space, tech. We're here.
Yeah.
And it's not getting any smaller, and it's certainly not getting any less critical.
Yeah.
What are you looking at? What's the conversation we're going to be having next year about, where your priorities are to achieve those new goals in the coming year in this fast-moving space?
I'll give you my real answer is we will probably a year from now be like, how the heck do we use all these AI tools that we put in place, and how do we get real insight and actionable data on them? But in a serious way, like, we'll have compiled so much insight and so much recommendation and so much data from AI. I think next year you're going to be talking about how do we prioritize this? What is the path of least resistance to get some of these beautiful, wonderful, amazing things actually implemented in a restaurant ecosystem, which takes time to implement things. Restaurants are very people-driven businesses, and it takes time to implement those things. So I think we'll be talking about a lot more about prioritization next year.
Very good. Well, certainly not a job for the faint of heart. At this time, it does seem a little daunting. I don't envy you, but I do appreciate your time.
Yeah, appreciate it.
And good luck. We'll be following along.
Yeah, thanks, Alicia.
Thanks,